You're listening to Alcoholics Alive, where recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous share their experience on how they live AA as a way of life. None of our participants get paid or speak for AA. Here are your hosts, Shank and Wayne. Oh my goodness. Shank, I tried to get in Vancouver for the International Convention, but they shot me down because of my past criminal history.
Well, shoot.
So, yeah.
If you can't get in, I can't get in.
No. So if you made it to Vancouver and participated in the convention, let us know how it was.
Yeah, please. Tell us your experience.
Yep. Shank, what's our Upon Awakening reading today?
All right, today, our Upon Awakening reading comes from the book Alcoholics Anonymous. This is pages 163 to 164, the 4th edition, 2001. And it says, when a few men in this city have found themselves and have discovered the joy of helping others to face life again, there will be no stopping until everyone in that town has had his opportunity to recover, if he can and will.
It's an interesting reading.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it basically tells us that if we've found a way out, that we got to go help other people.
That's
And
right.
actually,
And what I like in this is there are a few statements, okay? If you find it in yourself, you've discovered the joy of helping others to face their life again. Then you go out until every man has had an opportunity to recover if he can and will.
Yep.
To me, this doesn't say like, well, we're going to change everything that we do to suit the needs of what people are saying they need.
Yep.
You know, we stick to our primary purpose.
Yeah, all of the earlier literature uses that phrase, can and will, or needs and wants it. They didn't just go out and just, haphazardly just try to help everybody. They were mainly trying to help people that actually wanted help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is, I love the story in the book Alcoholics Anonymous #3.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of what they did with him, Bill Dotson, right? They said, hey, do you want help? If you don't, that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
We're not up here trying to change anything you want to do. We're just looking for somebody that knows they have a problem and wants help.
Yep.
And they didn't try to convince them or prod them or push them. It was, hey, if you want help, we'll help you. If you don't, we'll go find somebody else that does.
Yep.
So that's we need to stick to that.
Mm-hmm. And I need this reminder, I can definitely get in the trenches with people that I try to help sometimes of like, well, yeah, you probably do need all of these other things happening in your life. And it's not that, I don't help people in other ways, but
Right.
I do believe it's important to remember the primary purpose here.
Yep.
Is that I have recovered, I have the tools to help others, and that's exactly what people did for me. By
And it is
speaking with me.
right. That's
And
right.
telling
Yeah.
me their
But
experience, not handing
yes.
me a book or a pamphlet or
Video,
any of that. Video,
an app, Grapevine app.
app. And all of those things can be helpful, sure. Okay, it's not my experience, but
Well, we've definitely discovered the joy of helping others, and we will continue to do that until everyone in the town has had the opportunity.
everyone.
Now, that's a tall order
It sure is.
if you live in a big town. All right, what's our what are we on? What concept are we on today?
We're on concept 4.
Okay.
Concept IV.
IV.
4. And so this concept talks about the right of participation. And here's what the short form says. Concept 4. At all responsible levels, we ought to maintain a traditional right of participation, allowing voting representation in reasonable proportion to the responsibility each must discharge.
Okay. Right of participation. So,
Sounds like legalese.
it does a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And they got it capitalized in quotations.
Mm-hmm.
So we've learned from concept 1 that groups hold the final authority.
Yep.
In concept 2, that authority is delegated to the conference
Yep.
through the delegate. Concept 3 said that trusted servants have the right of decision, meaning that they should represent the body that they're representing, but if they get more information or something happens, that they do have flexibility and autonomy to make decisions on the group they're representing, whatever the group that is. They also have a responsibility to report back on what they did and why they did it. But there's a lot of freedom with the right of decision, but there's also a lot of responsibility.
Yep.
Yeah, kind of like group autonomy. Groups can do what they want to do, but they should make sure they don't do anything that's going to impact other groups. So now concept IV 4 says, basically don't leave anyone out of the process. Right? So everyone deserves a voice in Alcoholics Anonymous, and everyone involved in a service should have a voice and a vote that matches their responsibility. So at the conference level, General Service Conference, the conference charter basically gives the delegates, trustees, AAWS and Grapevine directors, and some GSO and Grapevine staff the right to participate and the right to vote. So that's kind of why the concept was originally written. It basically tells us who the voting members are at the conference, and it basically gives them the right to participate. So AA is a little unique to other organizations in that it lets staff vote.
Yeah, this is why I get so confused.
Yeah.
I think I just default to what I know, which is not much. Don't think I'm an expert.
Yeah.
But this is different than like a typical nonprofit.
Right. Yeah, because typically, in most organizations, or more, I guess what we would call nonprofits, typically just your board votes on stuff. Staff provide input, staff provide information, but they typically would not vote. Even like we talked last week a little bit about the conference being kind of like Congress. So even like in government Congress, I mean, just the representatives vote. Their staff certainly pull a lot of information together and do things,
yeah.
but they don't vote. So A is a little unique in that. And you can read the history behind that. There was controversy when Bill first kind of floated the idea of staff voting at the conference. And there was a large portion of the fellowship that didn't agree with that. And they ultimately allowed it. So, I mean, right or wrong, that's what happens. And I think they did it because they didn't want to have any upper class or lower class, members.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this even kind of goes down to the group level. If In our group, everybody gets the right to participate.
Yeah.
Everybody has a voice. Everybody has a vote. It keeps us. It helps to keep us from having anybody in charge. Although in a lot of groups, there's somebody in charge.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true.
We can act like it. We can act like it doesn't exist, but there are people that have a lot of influence or a lot of sway in a group. I think, and that's actually one of the reasons why I think some of the AA members didn't want staff to have a vote, because they felt like they could have some undue influence over delegates. I mean, does that happen? It might. I mean, if a delegate's trying to be fair and impartial, it shouldn't happen, but I would imagine that it could happen. And you could even see in some cases nowadays where people probably would think that staff knows more than a delegate.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're sitting in the office and they get, they get communications and information from AA members all over the world. So you could see how they maybe get into a position where somebody would think they're the expert, even if they don't even act like it.
But you know what? What I have found over the last several years, in my personal experience, is generally those people know not the least, but not nearly as much as you think they would or should,
Yep. Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, it goes back just like even in a business, right? I mean, if you want to know what's really going on, you go talk to the person out in the ground. You don't go
That's
talk to the marketing director at the office.
That's right.
It's just not the same. And
Well, we experience that with the prisons, taking meetings, and that you go to the suits downtown, who we love and respect and are great, but they will tell
Yep.
you one thing that you know is definitely not what is happening.
Yep, that's right. 100%.
So why does this really matter in terms of our structure in AA?
Well, for a number of reasons. One, it helps everybody feel like that they belong. Helps everyone feel like that they have a voice. At the conference level, I mean, it certainly can help promote unity between staff, trustees, board, and delegates. Right? If we're all know that we're coming together as equal and we all have the exact same right to participate and vote, it should promote unity between people. It increases accountability too with those folks. And it should, in a lot of spiritual ways, when they come together, there shouldn't be like any titles and no one person's in charge. I mean, obviously they got to have a chair to chair the conference, right? Just like you chair your home group.
Hey, the chair is the best position, in my opinion.
Yeah. But, nobody's in charge. So that's really why it matters. And even at the, you got a question?
No, go ahead.
Even at the conference level, the staff does provide information that people need to make informed decisions.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Is there a list of, in order to be a delegate or a trustee or, maybe even, is there a list of requirements you have to hit to be able to do that? Because this makes it sound like, to me, a right of participation that you don't have to have a college degree, or you don't have to have worked for a Fortune 500 company, or, you can just be any alcoholic that has been sober for a period of time, who has held positions, whatever you start at GSR, you go to DCM, you go up, maybe that, right? And you want someone who's very familiar in Alcoholics Anonymous. But are there other requirements? I haven't been able to find any. I'm just curious.
No, I mean, there are some requirements to be like a delegate. You can find those in the service manual.
Hmm.
They're all dependent on like sobriety time and maybe having been a past DCM or area officer, stuff like that. There's no like requirements on education level or anything like that. Even on like the trustees and the non-trustee directors, there's suggested requirements mostly on sobriety time and past AA service positions.
Hmm.
Nothing on educational level or other experience. Now they will sometimes ask for experience.
Hmm.
So on like the non-trustee director positions, and they may be, if they're looking for like somebody for the A grapevine, they may ask if you've had nonprofit experience or if you've had publishing experience.
Because you want
Or
someone who is well qualified for the position. And we have, we've been through
yeah,
that in previous concepts.
yeah. But there's no strict guidelines on criteria for those positions. And when they post those jobs, or when they're trying to get nominations for it, the requirements are on the thing,
Okay.
the announcement.
All right.
So, and GSO staff, I mean, I think I said this before, they should participate because they have experience and they have knowledge of stuff that's going on. Even in our home group, I mean, everyone that shows up serves and should be heard.
Okay, so I
But
have the grapevine checklist for the concepts pulled up.
okay,
So for concept 4, here is one of the questions. This is relating to what you just said. Do we expect that because we are AA members, we should be allowed to vote at any group, even if we are not active members of that group?
well, this is one of those questions that you're probably going to get a lot of different answers from,
Yeah.
depending on who you talk to. I can tell you that the AA group pamphlet and the AA service manual both make a comment. I don't have it here in front of me, but that each member has one vote, and that this is generally expressed at his or her home group. So, at least according to the literature, an AA member has one vote, and that vote should take place at what they call their home group. Now, with that being said, I know people that vote at multiple groups.
Mm-hmm.
I know groups that have open business meetings, and anybody can participate. And as a matter of fact, I was a member of a group, and for a short period of time when I lived in Charlotte, they had an open business meeting and an open group inventory.
Whoa.
And they loved. I thought it was the worst. So you could technically have, like, at your business meeting, just some dude or just some person that didn't know anything about the group or never really participated in any of the group work that could have a voice at a business meeting and even at an inventory. I just thought that's a little too open.
So I found it in the service manual.
Yeah.
This is Chapter 1, the group and its general service representative. And it says, while many AA members attend other groups as well, the home group is where they participate in business meetings and cast their vote as part of the group conscience of the fellowship as a whole. As with all group conscience matters, each member has one vote.
Yep. Yeah. So
Now, this is saying, even if we are not active members of the group, is what Concept 4 is saying, which I found very interesting.
yep. Well, Here's the thing. Why would you show up at a group that you're like not actually active in and try to have a voice or input?
Because you are an egomaniac with an inferiority complex who needs to be heard, who doesn't
Yep.
have to show up to all the meetings or all of any of that or sponsor people, but they know what needs to happen.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
I took a
okay.
guy off our home group list who I knew had another home group and said he wanted to stay on our home group list. I said, what are you doing? You go to you don't come to our business meeting, you go to that business meeting? He said, yes. I took him off.
Yeah. I don't blame you. I would too. Yeah. I don't, I mean, this doesn't make any sense to me, but yeah.
Okay, one of the other
So,
questions on here says,
mhm.
do we understand the spiritual principles underlying the right of participation?
It is a very kind of spiritual concept because if we're following it, I mean, it really to me it kind of falls in line with our first three traditions of unity and keeping an open mind, and everybody's voice is important, and there are no requirements other than the desire to stop drinking. I think the right of participation is the same way. It's that everybody does have a voice, and everybody should be able to participate, and that we shouldn't exclude anybody. Right? So this one even flies in the face of all the specialty things that we put out.
Hmm.
Hell, the concept already just tells you, man, you can participate. We
Okay,
don't
so
care who you
so
are.
let me ask you that this brings to mind my first home group. It wasn't like a service position necessarily, but once you had maybe 4 or 5 years of sobriety, one of the old timers would kind of talk to you like, hey, if someone is being disruptive during the meeting, if someone is being talking the whole time, or maybe they are drunk, they can be there, but if they keep interrupting, our group, we very politely will take them out in the hall and talk to them, about like, okay,
Hmm.
there are resources available. Are you okay? I'll talk with you one on one. We may walk them outside and just say, hey, we're not going to disrupt the entire meeting, but let me talk to you one on one. And if they were drunk, we would have two people. And people went crazy over that. And, I was fairly newly sober, and I'm like, everyone deserves to be here. I can't believe this is happening. And then I was in a meeting with a guy that I really respect, and he took a drunk guy out of the meet. And listen, the drunk guy had 20 years previously, and the guy's name is Jesse. And Jesse took him out because he kept interrupting and going on and on and on and on. And he took him outside and came back into the meeting and said, "Yeah, I told him to sit down out here, and I'd talk to him
Hmm.
after the meeting. I'd take him home, take him to detox, whatever he's, but he's not going to interrupt the
Yep.
meeting." And so that was when I really kind of understood, like, oh, well, yeah, we should all be able to be here and participate, but we should be able to do that and also ask people who are disruptive or who are not here for the
Yeah.
same reason or who are struggling, whatever. Um,
Yeah. That's a good That's a good analogy there. That's the earmarks of a healthy group to me,
yeah.
because we do have the first tradition that says the common welfare comes first,
Hmm.
right? So we got to do what's best for the group. So if a guy's being disruptive and he's interfering with 30 other people, or he's interfering with the spirit of the meeting, then he does need to be dealt with,
Hmm.
right? So, pulling that guy out aside and having a conversation with him is absolutely the right thing to do. And hey, dude, you're willing to come back and participate, but you're
That's
going to
right.
have to stop being disruptive.
And we were
Yeah.
always told that make sure these people know we're happy for them to come back. Our meeting meets again on
Yes.
Thursday at 7,
Yeah.
and we're happy to meet with them in between. But I do remember having at my home group when it happened, just having this like, God, the old timers are
I
really off base with
yes,
this, you know?
I did the same thing. Yeah. So you got the right to participate, but you don't have the right to create chaos
Right, right. Or to take over or
or
to
take
air
over.
your fifth
Yeah.
step out to the
Yeah.
group.
Right. And that stuff's going to happen. I mean, it is Alcoholics Anonymous, but yeah, this doesn't give people a license to just do what they want to do.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what other questions you got, Shank?
Okay, what does in reasonable proportion mean? Do we understand when it is appropriate for AA paid staff to have a vote at the General Service Conference or in our local service structure?
Interesting question. The proportionate question, that would be up to that individual conference or that committee to figure that out. I think for our conference, the charter spells that out. At like an intergroup or a district or area level, that would be up to the committee and those area officers. What was the tail end of that question?
Do we understand when it is appropriate for AA paid staff to have a vote at the General Service Conference or in our local service structure?
Okay. Well, for the paid staff, yes. There's 13 to 15, depending on the head count of staff that actually can vote at the conference. And locally, again, it would depend on that local committee and what they're doing. I don't know. I was the chair of the intergroup. You think I would know this? Does the office manager, who's a paid staff member, do they vote?
That's a great question.
I can't remember.
Yes, she
Yeah.
does vote. However, I do not believe that was always the case. I believe the bylaws have been updated a few times.
Yeah. I would think that just me that you wouldn't want the office manager to have a vote, but I think you definitely would want the office manager there to provide information
Yep.
and guidance and what their needs are. But I would think it'd be a conflict for them to vote personally.
My personal experience is it was a conflict.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not even, I respect the concept and Bill's initial thoughts on staff voting, but I think at some point it's probably unnecessary, and that they could I think they could influence a vote personally, the staff, because let's just face it, most people can't separate their true personal beliefs for just information.
Well, they're biased.
And they're biased,
Biases.
and the way it is kind of communicated kind of influences whether they're for or against something. And I just don't think it's good personally. So, I'm going to honor it because that's the way it is.
Yeah.
But I think it should be just delegates and trustees voting and no staff. Anyway, I just poo-pooed that concept. So I guess the takeaway for this is that, at our home group level, we should encourage everybody to participate. It is true sometimes the person that maybe has never said anything, or maybe a newer person does have a really good idea that kind of shifts what the group thinks. And I do think we should avoid people that that talk too much, or that they're the loudest voices. That that goes on probably in every group, but as us as AA members, we should make sure that we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And we should encourage people to participate, not to hold back. And as we've talked about in the past, I think especially like at the district and area level, sometimes lately it's been difficult to speak up, because it's like when you do have the voice of reason, or the voice that's based on like facts, and the voice that's actually based on what's actually going on out in groups and in places where we take meetings, nobody wants to hear it. They're just into what feels good and what's popular at the time. And they want to check a box instead of actually going out and helping alcoholics. So anyway, we don't have second-class citizens in AA, and us as AA members should encourage and help new people.
Concept 4.
let them participate in group chores and group stuff. So anyway, you want to move on to Living Sober Shrapnel?
Living Sober Shrapnel. This is our segment of lore, myth, and sayings taken from the booklet Living Sober, which, if you didn't know, Living Sober is a booklet, and it is practical suggestions heard at meetings. Okay? That is the descriptor, if you did not know. So, we've been reading through Living Sober, getting all the shrapnel. This comes from the 55th printing, 2024. And over the past few weeks, we've been in this same little section here. I just can't get out of it because it is just so great. There's so much shrapnel in it. There's some very good suggestions. The little section is avoiding dangerous drugs and medications.
Nice.
Just so that you know.
Oh, we're supposed to avoid those?
Well,
okay.
This gives us a lot of information about what to do, what not to do, and who to talk to.
Okay.
So actually, all three of these are from page 54.
Nice.
54, Shrapnel City. Our first one is all those assorted smokes.
All right.
And here's what it says. Once again, Barry loved a list. It says, and we are wary of what we take on our own. We steer away from cough syrups with alcohol, codeine, bromides, and from all those assorted smokes, powders, synthetic painkillers, liquids, and vapors that are sometimes freely handed around by unauthorized pharmacists or amateur anesthesiologists.
God, I love this.
Talking about the, what doesn't people say in their talks when they're like, oh, I was a home pharmaceutical, or what do they say?
Yeah,
Basically saying I was a drug dealer.
drug dealer. Yeah, but there's a term for it.
I can't remember.
This is good. All those assorted smokes. So he's saying we're supposed to steer away from cough syrups with alcohol, which I agree. Codeine, yep. Bromides, yep. All those assorted smokes, powders, synthetic painkillers, liquids, and vapors. Hey, if you're out there vaping, guess what? You ain't sober. At least according to Living Sober book, ain't gonna Barry. Oh, man.
Well, what's interesting is, and I think you bring up this point a lot, we think that everything is new and different, and it's not.
No, it's not.
Look at this. Synthetic painkillers.
Yep. This was written in the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Vapors.
just so interesting to me every time that I'm reading through parts of Living Sober, how like nothing is freaking different.
No.
Okay,
it's
now
really not.
you have kava, and what's the other one? I always say it wrong. I said it wrong a few episodes.
Kombucha?
Kombucha.
Yeah.
What's the other one? I can't remember.
Oh, kratom. Kratom. It's kratom.
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 Got your kratom happening.
Well, yeah. Well, here's the interesting thing about this. So this is in an AA book.
Mm-hmm.
But if you, in a meeting today, made a comment that, hey, you know what, it's probably not a good idea to take some of this stuff, they would say, oh, you're not a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell anybody what to take. Well, what the hell, it's in the AA literature right there. I love the cough syrup with alcohol.
Yeah.
Barry's saying don't take it.
He's saying don't do it.
Steer away. This is Shank, you better steer away from all those assorted smokes.
Well,
What are you going to do with this one?
it's you know what, I like what they're saying here. I like what they're saying, but I do want to start saying unauthorized pharmacist or amateur anesthesiologist.
So instead of saying you're not a doctor, hey, you're an unauthorized pharmacist.
That's right.
Hey, you're an amateur anesthesiologist.
But you know what I like about is this is throughout this entire little section, it's basically saying like, okay, you know how in the big book it says, don't let spiritual terms deter you, figure out what they mean to you. I feel like this is telling you personally, like, don't let what we're saying deter you, but figure out what this means to you. It's not your sponsor's responsibility or AA's responsibility to tell you what you should and shouldn't be doing, but hey, all this is probably a bad idea.
Yeah, that's right. Which is the good approach.
Yeah.
Right? He's saying, hey, be careful. Watch out for this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It also, before this, which I left out, it does say, like, hey, you need to make sure that physicians or dentists, it says dentist specifically, that they understand our personal history accurately and that they are sufficiently knowledgeable about alcoholism and they understand our risk with medications.
Seems
which
like
is unheard of.
Seems like it's another dying thing. That was one of the first things I was told when I got sober. Was that, hey, you need to make sure your doctor and your dentist know what's going on with you. They need to know the truth. Matter of fact, I gave both of mine, well, I didn't have a doctor, but I gave my dentist a big book. I was told to do that.
Yep, why not?
I've had lots of 12-step calls from him.
Love that.
Referrals. Yep.
Well, he likes you. He sees you in the middle of a restaurant and he's saying, hey, Jerry!
Yeah, that's because all the money I've paid him over the last 30 years. I bought his beach house for him.
There you go. You would keep this one or scrap it?
Scrap it.
It's out of here. Next, we have skip such risky brushes. And it says, it is not all difficult, we find, to skip such risky brushes with disaster, purely on grounds of health, not of morality. Through Alcoholics Anonymous, we have found a drug-free way of life which, to us, is far more satisfying than any we have ever experienced with mood-changing substances.
Listen, I'm bringing this book back. We're going to start reading this at the home group.
I mean, that's a pretty good statement, isn't it?
It is. Yeah.
And today, okay, I feel like a lot of people operate on morality. And that's, for me personally, that's dangerous. That's dangerous territory. Especially when it comes to Alcoholics Anonymous, I do things because other people helped me. I'm giving back. I'm paying it forward. It's a joy. Not because I want to be morally superior to anyone.
Yep. He's saying we're standing on the grounds of health.
Yep.
Yeah. It's a good statement. I mean, to skip such risky brushes. I'm not sure. That's kind of funny, but I think in general what he's saying is true, that, hey, we found a kind of a healthy way to live, and it doesn't require substances to change the way that we feel. We have a spiritual feeling because of our relationship with God.
I'm able to live with physical discomfort, emotional discomfort, spiritual discomfort, because I have learned in Alcoholics Anonymous that I still take the actions that I took yesterday.
Right. Yeah.
I still show up to my home group. You know, like...
What do you want to do with this one?
I think we could probably... we can get rid of skip such risky brushes, but maybe just keep the reading.
All right.
Our
Keep it.
last Living Sober Shrapnel is chemically triggered urge for immediate satisfaction.
Yes!
Well, there it is. Yep, there it is.
And so this says, then we have the strength to make healthful, independent decisions, relying less on impulse or the chemically triggered urge for immediate satisfaction. We can see and consider more aspects of a situation than before, can delay gratification for the sake of more enduring, long-term benefits, and can better weigh not only our own welfare, but also that of others we care for.
Well, listen, I've never heard this comment, but he nails it here where he says chemically triggered urge for immediate satisfaction. That goes to what you just said a minute ago. So we all are going to have pain, whether it's spiritual, mental, physical, emotional. We're all going to have things not go well. And it seems like nowadays most people immediately want comfort from that. Whatever the discomfort is, they're looking for a quick answer to that, and like they're not supposed to feel any of that. Hence the chemically triggered urge for immediate satisfaction.
I have a friend who has been in and out of AA for a while, and she will always say to me, well, I'm meeting with my sponsees, and AA, that's what AA tells me to do. Why do I not feel better? And I said, are you doing it to feel better?
Right.
You're doing it for you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't AA tells me to do this, and I still don't get what I want. Basically.
Yep. Missed the point.
Missed the point.
Chemically triggered urge for immediate satisfaction.
I like that one.
I do too. Not only our own welfare, but also that of others we care for.
And in between our last reading and this one, it talks about, hey, the chemical magic we felt from alcohol or substitutes for it was all locked within our heads anyway.
Yep.
So no one else knew what was going on inside of us.
Mm-hmm. And it's all really a temporary, right, solution or fix. Well, I don't know about this one. I'm going to start using that term.
I think you should.
You got a chemically triggered urge for immediate satisfaction. How about you just pray and go apologize?
Please.
What do you think?
I think we keep that one.
I'm keeping it.
The more I read, living sober, the more I'm thinking it may be all right.
Be it known out there in the virtual world that Shank and Wayne just kept 2 living sober shrapnels. That's never happened.
Start using them at your home group.
So start using these 2. Skip such risky brushes and chemically triggered urge for immediate satisfaction. We want to see those on the walls in the rooms of AA. Oh my goodness. All right. Thanks for listening out there today. And remember, give people the right to participate in things that you're involved with, and give them the right to participate in your own life. In the meantime, be free.
Freedom.
Thanks for listening. If you have a comment, suggestion, or just need help, you can email Shank and Wayne at freedom@alcoholicsalive.com. Remember, we're recovered members of Alcoholics Anonymous, but we do not speak for Alcoholics Anonymous, nor do we get paid. Join us next week for another great episode.